Chapter 2, An Enigma. 3 days later, Ben receives a call from Larry. The results are in, he says.
So, what is it?
The professor says he wants to speak to us in person, Larry explains. He sounded pretty excited.
You know your way to the college?
Ben asks. Yeah, I can pick you up in 30 minutes.
All right, I'll be at the lump.
Whatever floats your boat. They hang up, and Ben heads down the road to the abandoned house. The lump is longer now, over 2 feet. Little snaking roots have spread out into the surrounding grass, and it appears to be making its way toward the house. Ben walks up to it and nearly chokes. There's a dead squirrel attached to the side of the lump, held down by its prickly roots. Gnarly, black, tooth-like protrusions penetrate the squirrel's body, and the rodent's head has begun to fuse with the flesh of the lump. Ben's heart begins to race. He suddenly regrets not having removed the massive tumor when he first saw it. Judging by those roots, it probably extends at least a foot underground by now. Slowly and cautiously, he inches closer to the thing. He extends his right foot and gently prods one of the roots with his shoe. The root twitches slightly, but nothing else happens. The lump just sits there, pulsing gently. Beep! He hears a car horn and jumps. Larry has arrived. Ben comes around the side of the house and beckons for Larry to come out. Larry unbuckles his seatbelt and steps out of the car. Let me guess, Larry says as he crosses the lawn. It got bigger? He follows Ben to the backyard, stops a few feet away from the lump, and gasps. Jesus Christ.
You got any shovels?
Ben asks. I don't, says Larry. Is that a goddamn kitten?
Squirrel, says Ben.
He stands back up.
We shouldn't touch it yet, at least not until we know a little more about it.
You don't have to tell me twice. Let's go. They make their way up to the second floor of the university where the biology department is located. The professor and a student are standing over a counter facing the wall as Ben and Larry approach. From up close, Ben notices a mottled pink rash on Megan's right hand. There's a petri dish on the counter before them, wherein a smaller, less threatening version of the lump is spreading out and growing, fragile little tendrils branching and extending through the agar.
You're cultivating it, says Ben. That's just it, says Meg. It started growing all on its own.
Kill it, says Larry, almost angrily.
Kill it?
She cries.
What are the results? Ben interjects.
Unprecedented, responds Dr. Carpenter. He reaches for a nearby folder and opens it. According to our tests, which are admittedly limited, this organism has genetic markers from at least 7 different species. So it's some kind of hybrid? Asks Larry.
Not necessarily, says Ben. That just means it shares an ancestor with those 7 species, right?
Not in this case, says the professor. He flips through the folder. The 7 species include a grass, a species of ant, a spider, some mycorrhizal fungus, common earthworm, oak tree, and snail. Not to mention hundreds of bacterial plasmids.
Well, it sounds like the test was compromised, Ben offers.
That's exactly what I thought, but we rechecked 3 times. Ben leans in to examine the petri dish.
So what is it?
The professor shakes his head. The primary tissue has a genetic makeup unlike anything I've ever seen. Like an alien? Asks Larry. Probably not, says Dr. Carpenter. It's definitely a eukaryote, so I'd say it's from Earth.
What do you mean the primary tissue? Asks Ben.
Well, it appears to be a colonial organism. You know those species on the list? At first I thought it had somehow incorporated their DNA into its own, but it seems to be the other way around. The body contains multiple tissues, each with their own distinct genetic makeup. If I had to guess, I'd say it took cells from these organisms, then modified their genomes with its own so they could function as tissues within its body. Definitely an alien, says Larry. Megan speaks up.
An alien wouldn't be able to do that, Larry. We have enough trouble implanting tissues into an organism from the same species, let alone species from different kingdoms of life. Forget about life forms from another planet. This thing would have had to have evolved on Earth for eons to accomplish something like this.
So why haven't we seen it before? Asks Ben. Megan shrugs.
It could have operated on the microscopic level all this time, decaying rapidly and leaving little trace. This may be the first time it's ever grown this big. Could it be a product of genetic engineering?
Doubtful, says the professor. This kind of engineering is decades away, centuries even. How do we kill it? Asks Larry. Probably just expose it to arsenic or something, says the professor. Although I'd much rather keep it alive, transplant it here if we can.
It's gotten bigger, says Ben.
The original lump? He nods. How big? Ben holds his hands about 2.5 feet apart.
It was eating a squirrel when I saw it today.
Fascinating.
That's one word for it.
Larry clears his throat. There are kids in that neighborhood. I say we dig it up ASAP. I would agree, says the professor. We can go right now if you like. I'd like that very much.